Berry applied the stethoscope again. His face blanched. "What's the matter?" Len asked after a moment. The doctor's gaze was fixed and glassy. "Vagitus uterrinus," Berry muttered. He pulled the stethoscope off abruptly and stared at it. "No, of course it couldn't be. Now, isn't that a nuisance? We seem to be picking up a radio broadcast with our little stethoscope here. I'll just go and get another instrument." Moira and Len exchanged glances. Moira's was almost excessively bland. Berry confidently came in with a new stethoscope, put the diaphragm against Moira's belly, listened for an instant, and twitched once all over, as if his mainspring had snapped. Visibly jangling, he stepped away from the table. His jaw worked several times before any sound came out. "Excuse me," he said, and walked out in an uneven line. Len snatched up the instrument he had dropped. Like a bell, ringing underwater, muffled but clear, a tiny voice was shouting, "You bladder-headed pill-pusher, you bedside vacuum, you fifth-rate tree surgeon, you inflated—" A pause. "Is that you, Connington? Get off the line. I haven't finished with Dr. Bedpan yet." Moira smiled like a Buddha-shaped bomb. "Well?" she said. "We've got to think," Len kept saying over and over. "You've got to think." Moira was combing her hair, snapping the comb smartly at the end of each stroke. "I've had plenty of time to think ever since it happened. When you catch up—" Len flung his tie at the carved wooden pineapple on the corner of the footboard. "Moy, be reasonable. The chances against the kid kicking 3 times in any 1-minute period are only about 1 in 100. The chances against anything like—" Moira grunted and stiffened for a moment. Then she cocked her head to one side with a listening expression, a new mannerism of hers that was beginning to send intangible snakes crawling up Len's spine. "What now?" he asked sharply. "He says to keep our voices down. He's thinking." Len's fingers clenched convulsively, and a button flew off his shirt, shaking. He pulled his arms out of the sleeves and dropped the shirt on the floor. "Look, I just want to get this straight. When he talks to you, you don't hear him shouting all the way up past your liver and lights. What?" "You know perfectly well. He reads my mind." "That isn't the same as—" Len took a deep breath. "Let's not get off on that. What I want to know is, what is it like? Do you seem to hear a real voice, or do you just know what he's telling you without knowing how you know?" Moira put the comb down in order to think better. "It isn't like hearing a voice. You'd never confuse one with the other. It's more— the nearest I can come to it is, it's like remembering a voice, except that you don't know what's coming." Len picked his tie off the floor and abstractedly began knotting it on his bare chest. "And he sees what you see? He knows what you're thinking? He can hear when people talk to you?" "Of course." "This is tremendous." Len began to blunder around the bedroom, not looking at where he was going. "They thought Macaulay was a genius. This kid isn't even born. I heard him. He was cussing Berry out like Monty Woolley." "He had me reading The Man Who Came to Dinner 2 days ago." Len made his way around a small bedside table by trial and error. "That's another thing. How much could you say about his personality? I mean, does he seem to know what he's doing, or is he just striking out wildly in all directions?" He paused. "Are you sure he's really conscious at all?" Moira began, "That's silly," and stopped. "Define consciousness," she said doubtfully. "All right. What I really mean— why am I wearing this necktie?" He ripped it off and threw it over a lampshade. "What I mean—" "Are you sure you're really conscious?" "Okay, you make joke, I laugh, ha ha. What I'm trying to ask is, have you seen any evidence of creative thought, organized thought, or is he just integrating along the lines of instinctive responses? Do you—" "I know what you mean. Shut up a minute." "I don't know." "I mean, is he awake or asleep and dreaming about us, like the Red King?" "I don't know." And if that's it, what'll happen when he wakes up? Moira took off her robe, folded it neatly, and maneuvered herself between the sheets. Come to bed. Len got one sock off before another thought struck him. He reads your mind. Can he read other people's? He looked appalled. Can he read mine? He doesn't. Whether it's because he can't, I don't know. I think he just doesn't care. Len pulled the other sock halfway down and left it there. In a stiffer tone, he said, One of the things he doesn't care about is whether I have a job. No, he thought it was funny. I wanted to sink through the floor, but I had all I could do to keep from laughing when she fell down. Len, what are we going to do? He swiveled around and looked at her. Look, he said, I didn't mean to sound that gloomy. We'll do something. We'll fix it. Really. I hope so. Careful of his elbows and knees, Len climbed into the bed beside her. Okay now? Ugh. Moira tried to sit up suddenly and almost made it. She wound up propped on one elbow and said indignantly, Oh, no. Len stared at her in the dimness. What? She grunted again. Len, get up. All right. Len, hurry. Len fought his way convulsively past the treacherous sheet and staggered up, goose-pimpled and tense. What's wrong? You'll have to sleep on the couch. The sheets are in the bottom. On the couch? Are you crazy? I can't help it, she said in a small, faint voice. Please don't let's argue. You'll just have to. Why? We can't sleep in the same bed, she wailed. He says it's, unhygienic. Len's contract was not renewed. He got a job waiting on tables in a resort hotel, an occupation which pays more money than teaching future citizens the rudiments of 3 basic sciences, but for which Len had no aptitude. He lasted 3 days at it. He was then idle for a week and a half until his 4 years of college physics earned him employment as a clerk in an electrical shop. His employer was a cheerfully aggressive man who assured Len that there were great opportunities in radio and television, and firmly believed that the atom bomb tests were causing all the bad weather. Moira, in her 8th month, walked to the county library every day and trundled a load of books home in the perambulator. Little Leo, it appeared, was working his way simultaneously through biology, astrophysics, phrenology, chemical engineering, architecture, Christian Science, psychosomatic medicine, marine law, business management, yoga, crystallography, metaphysics, and modern literature. His domination of Moira's life remained absolute, and his experiments with her regimen continued. One week she ate nothing but nuts and fruit, washed down with distilled water. The next she was on a diet of porterhouse steak, dandelion greens, and hadacol. With the coming of full summer, fortunately few of the high school staff were in evidence. Len met Dr. Berry once on the street. Berry started, twitched, and walked off rapidly in an entirely new direction. The diabolical event was due on or about July 29th. Len crossed off each day on their wall calendar with an empathetic black grease pencil. It would, he supposed, be an uncomfortable thing at best to be the parent of a super prodigy. Leo would no doubt be dictator of the world by the time he was 15, unless he would be assassinated first, but almost anything would be a fair price for getting Leo out of his maternal fortress. Then there was the day that Len came home to find Moira weeping over the typewriter with a half-inch stack of manuscript beside her. It isn't anything. I'm just tired. He started this after lunch. Look. Len turned the face-down sheaf the right way up. Droning, abrasing, the demiurge. Higher begrims the tail. Eyes undotted, grueling, and looking, turns off. Alarm, seizes clothes, stewed beardly a wretch. Pence therefore shoes we, pons. Let the pants take air of them souls. The first 3 sheets were all like that. The fourth was a perfectly good Petrarchian sonnet, reviling the current administration and the political party of which Len was a Registration Day member.